This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome to the NBA Team Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Andrew Reich. I'm joined by my co-host, Adam Murray. We are doing our postmortems for our NBA teams that finished up their seasons as they go into the off season. Yeah, I mean,
let's just keep it moving. This is the way the season went. We just had a lot of teams were just there and unmemorable, and this is a large bunch of them, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, there are a lot. I kind of like label the next crew like the troublemakers, like teams that I feel like they're on the precipice of being something really good, but they're not there yet. But they do have like assembly of talent. You know, that I feel like that's what this group is capable of. A lot of these teams made the playoffs as well.
Let's go.
All right, Adam, let's talk about the Portland Trail Blazers. A little bit of a wacky year. Now, they did have a reunion with Damian Lillard. Unfortunately, he had torn his Achilles in the playoffs as a Buck, and then he got stretched. So when he signed there, he didn't play a game in the regular season. Funnily enough, he won the 3-point shootout, but he didn't play in the regular season. But anyways, Lillard didn't play at all. He was basically a scratch. And then the biggest controversy that happened involved Chauncey Billups getting entangled in a betting scandal that got him removed as head coach. Like, I think how long into the season were they when it happened?
It was not very long. It was quite
maybe like
early.
5 games. Yeah.
No, it was. The timeline is all messed up as I was again in Europe for part of it. So it was like when did I fell off the map completely. But okay, yeah. Billups is out. You have an interim in. The team rallies behind him.
Thiago Splitter, yeah.
However, for a team that's 1 year away and they took a sort of a gap year with Lillard, who got the MLE, it's just a very expensive team to try to keep together, to just be sort of trying to bud and gel. And then now we're at the point where we're paying people. And last year, Kamara got the $80 million deal. And then this year,
he's a great defensive player. Offensively, he's feast or famine, but he got a nice media extension before the season started. 4 years, $81 million. Shaedon Sharpe, also a good player. I like Shaedon a lot. He's not the most efficient player, but he's a good defensive player. And he averaged 20 points a game. He also signed an extension to stay there. The other problem that they have is that they also have Jeremy Grant and Drew Holiday. They were good contributors, but the problem is that they're on very, very steep money, and eventually you're going to have to find a way to at least jettison one of them.
Okay, you got those two players who are like 60-something million for the two of them who don't fit this young team's timeline.
They're good players. And Holiday had to me a surprisingly good year, because I thought he was at the age where he would really drop off. He kind of didn't. He played pretty well.
Well, he dropped off, but his role changed. Therefore, he was allowed to do the things he does. But with that said, you have former number 3 pick Scoot Henderson, who's looking to get paid. Well, you can't get paid with Lillard and then Drew Holiday and then Daniels and Sharpe sitting in front of you. That's a very backcourt. You're not going to be paying a ton of money for the 7th man off the bench who might be promising, who's held back by injuries and just now kind of being buried. Plus, you have the issues of the new owner who
there's been rumors that the new owner, I don't have his name off the top of my head. It used to be the Allen family, but they finally sold. That he's basically very frugal. One of the examples that happened, there was a lot of like funny stories that came out, like, oh yeah, they're not doing charter flights for people and stuff, like for the team and stuff like that. But the one that was kind of a giveaway was that Caleb Love had played really well as a two-way player. Well, two-way players in the NBA have limits in terms of how many games they can play. And in order to keep them on the roster, you have to give them guaranteed money. And the owner didn't do it. So you basically had a really good player on ice. I mean that a lot of people
Well,
were
he
really
wasn't
upset
allowed
about
to
that.
play because he reached his limit and they didn't give
Right,
him
but
a
what I'm saying
deal.
is that if they gave him the guaranteed money, he would have been able to, and they didn't, and the owner didn't do it.
Well, that's not the owner who's paying the contracts. The owner is, staying at home and not doing the things. And a lot of it's just, culture thing. We see the same thing with Minnesota, who is like, well, we need to cut back because we just bought this huge thing. And, well, we need to start making money. We can't be dumping a ton of things. So, yeah, of course, there's restructuring. And he was unable to sort of weather the media storm but again, he had no idea what to do. And then, look at Phoenix, who, their owner came in and then just like, I'm just going to spend money on everything. And then
And it
immediately
backfired.
realized it was bad. Same thing
Mhm.
with Brooklyn when was it Joe Tsai bought it and it was just like, oh, I'm going to buy the best team. And it's just, no,
Yeah, they're
Prokhorov.
maxed out.
When
Yeah.
Prokhorov bought the team and just, well, I'm going to do like soccer and just buy the best players. And then, oh, wait, that doesn't work. So, of course, there's a lot of growing pains with all stages of the game, going from, well, we have a new interim coach. Well, we don't know if we like the interim coach. And, well, it's like hockey. Well, hockey, the coaches are just so disposable. They just keep dumping them. Like, you'll see every, like, in the middle of the season, oh, yeah, they fired the coach. Oh, they fired the coach. They just got, this guy just won the Stanley Cup. They fired him. And there's a high turnover for coaches. And even like college basketball now, coaches, there's no, the $10 million coach is kind of over because now it's just
Yeah.
a $10 million GM. So the question sort of is where does Portland go forward with this very expensive roster that they can't keep together right now?
Yeah, because they're already over the cap, and I mean a big reason is because of the Grant and Holiday contracts, and then the kick-ins for Sharp and Kamara. Lillard getting that MLE and not playing a minute, I was kind of okay with it because you get so much fanfare from Lillard coming back when next season starts. The big benefit there is that they still have 2 years on lower money for Denny Avdia, who had a career year. Like, he was one of the best players in the league, and getting to the free throw line, you might have to try to restructure something down the road for him so that he can feel satisfied. Klingon is really good. I think he's a very good rebounder. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to be top 5 at rebounding in the league every year. Their draft picks were kind of hit and miss. Hanson Yang was pretty bad. I don't want to call him a bust yet, but he just didn't really do much. I hope Love gets more time. Thibault, Robert Williams III, I don't think they're going to come back. They're unrestricted free agents, and I highly doubt it. The Henderson one is interesting because they picked him high. He's shown improvement. He's shooting the ball better. In fact, I felt like when the Blazers played the Spurs in the playoffs, Scoot was probably their most consistent player in that playoff series, even though they lost in 5 games. But how much is he really worth? Like, is he worth like the level of what Brandon Miller is going to get? He's absolutely not worth what Victor Wembanyama is going to get. But what is his value? All right, Adam, let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks. Here's the thing. They started with Trae Young on the team, but we all kind of knew that there was a weird friction there where they had made a couple of moves. They signed Nickeil Alexander-Walker and a couple of other people, and they found out that they just worked better with Jalen Johnson, NAW, Dyson Daniels, and Onyeka Okongwu. Trae Young just never latched on to like the new core of the team, and he was traded to Washington. They also wound up getting Jonathan Kuminga and CJ McCollum. They wound up having, in my opinion, a bounce back year compared to other years, but they had a very odd playoff series with the Knicks where they were probably one of the only teams that gave the Knicks trouble. And then they absolutely got obliterated in the last 3 games of the series, which just showed their youth and inexperience.
Well, of course, they tried everything with Trae. It was the coach's fault. It was even the beginning of this year. The whole season, the past, so we could sort of go quickly through Atlanta as this is one of the teams we've gone over so much over the past few years. They tried everything with Trae, and then, okay, we're going to keep building around him. Now his contract's up. What do? We're going to make one last run. We're going to go with Porzingis. Porzingis couldn't stay healthy. Like you said, Trey didn't vibe with the way the
Do
team
you
was
think
going. So
do you think Trey's a little bit at fault for the falling out? Because it just seemed weird that they were playing okay, and then he comes back and they immediately go on a 6-game losing streak. Like, did he just not want to be there anymore?
no, it's just the way it always works. Look at Boston. Boston was going super well. Then all of a sudden, Tatum come back. Everyone's minutes get shuffled. Everyone's role gets shuffled. And no fault to Trey, as much as we like to bash him here for his style of play and his limitations and whatnot. But the same thing with Westbrook. Those players are who they are. And you could try to build your team around him, which they did. It didn't work. So they had to move on. And now here we are. You have this budding team still kind of gotta figure it out. They do need size. You can't just
Yes,
have a Kongwu and nobody
Muhammad
really.
Gay. Yeah, Gay was the other guy.
So you have this core in Daniels and Johnson and MIP Walker. Presumably they're going to bring back McCollum probably on like MLE maybe
Yeah, I
20.
think McCollum was weird because he had he's obviously a very experienced player. He's had a lot of clutch moments when he was a Blazer and a Pelican. But the thing is that you watched him in Washington and even when he was in New Orleans, and you could just see the wheels falling off, and he just seemed a little reinvigorated when he went to Atlanta. Like, even and then in the playoffs, he seemed to find his offensive touch again. But again, it was a very odd series where they played their best basketball in the first few games, and then they played probably their worst. I mean, I've never seen a destruction in an elimination game to the degree that the Hawks suffered in Game 6 against New York. I mean, they were down 50, I think, in halftime. Like, I've never seen anything like it before. But I think there was a learning moment. Quinn Snyder got an extension. I feel like deservedly so. I think he likes this core that he has. I
And it's
think
funny because he was on the hot seat with Trey. It
he
was, well, do
was,
they
and it was
need to
because of
move him? And
Trey,
then,
right?
yeah, well, we know who the problem was, and it wasn't Snyder. So yeah, where does Atlanta go from here?
It depends on what they want to do with Kuminga's team option at 24 million. I'll be very honest. If I were Atlanta, because I'm right there at the cap, I would just cut him, and I would just try to use that 24 million for some and allocate it to other people. Maybe use the mid-level exception to try to get another big guy. I think Kuminga had moments, but I think it would be better for him to just have his team option be exercised, and he can choose to go where he wants to go for once in his career. That's one. If they get the room, then you have to look into seeing, okay, what are we going to get out of Zachary Riza-Shea? He's got 2 more years on his rookie deal. He was the number 1 pick. I mean, do you like Riza-Shea?
His development has gone along very slow, which
I mean, he averaged 10 points and 4 rebounds. He's not like a total bust. It's been a slow
10
development.
but there's no minutes for him. And
Mhm.
there really wasn't. And then you bring Kuminga in, but you want to cut and stretch everybody. That seems to be your theme for the year of just you love the dead money. But
Yeah.
this is year 3, the development, you have to find a way, like, is he going to be a part of the plan, which it doesn't appear to be at the moment, but
Mhm.
you never know. It could just be the sophomore slump and then he can take a leap. But the expectations were kind of low on him to begin with, and he's kind of met those low expectations.
And you just hope that NAW, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, he can keep that shooting up. They're going to need it. Even if they bring back McCollum, say they bring back McCollum on smaller money, which is possible, you're going to have good shooting to make up for the fact that Dyson Daniels is just not an outside shooter. And I think, and when they signed that extension for him for 4 years, 100 million, that was accepted. They knew, okay, we have a defensive demon. He's very athletic, but we know he cannot shoot from the outside. Jalen Johnson, he's almost like I don't want to say he's like Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is a center who kind of likes to stay in the paint. Jalen Johnson is a guy who likes to start at the elbow, and he hovers into the paint, and then he gets that floater off. I'm trying to find like a decent comparison as like a playmaking big man, but he's very unique. He's kind of like a point forward, but but he's not a center. So he's got a very unique skill set, but you also need to have an offense that's built around him. He had I think the only guy who had more triple doubles than him was Jokic. So he's a great playmaker. All right, Adam, the Orlando Magic. Whew, this was a roller coaster ride. So they put all their chips in money wise when they got Desmond Bane and they traded away multiple picks. They had injuries to Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero throughout the season. Banchero clashed with the head coach Jamal Mosley. Their regular season record was very underwhelming. Then they overachieved as an 8 seed, and they almost took down the 1-seeded Detroit Pistons, and then they blew a 3-1 series lead. So, and then they also fired their coach.
Which we knew was going to happen, and then
I mean, the rumors were prevalent. I mean, it was a fire burner. Like, everybody saw what was going on, where they were taking shots at each other in press conferences. You could just feel the tension between
the
Paulo
vibe there
and
was
Jamal
not
Mosley.
awesome, and especially when you go all in, because as we talk about windows all the time, trading away 4 picks, gave away 4 first, which is now probably done with this new lottery flattening thing. But with the mindset of, well, yeah, we plan to pick in the 20s anyway, and if we're going to keep this roster together, we don't need a bench player who's never going to play. It's just wasted money. Mm-hmm. I understand that, but again, double tax line. They went all in by getting Bane. They took way too long to get Bane acclimated.
Yeah, he struggled.
System.
He struggled mightily. Like the first. Now, by the way, they were 10-4 in November. Like, they started out well. Then in December they slumped. When Wagner got hurt, Wagner to me was never 100%. It looked like to me he broke his ankle, and he somehow tried to play through it, and he had some good moments, but overall Wagner's just struggled. I think the injuries, he just never got over it. But anyways, when Wagner got hurt in December, all of a sudden Bane really started to come along, as like in terms of his field goal percentage, his intensity, his ability to make plays. Paulo's Paulo. He's just even regardless of all the issues he had with the head coach, the guy averaged 22 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 6 free throws. I mean, he is a beast.
As previously mentioned with Atlanta, once the logjam got freed, all of a sudden, then Bane, you had to, reorganize your structure, and then Bane played his game. But we've said Paolo and Franz can't play together. This team can't work with it. They kind of, health is obviously a big thing, and if you can't get those guys on the court together, it's one thing, but if you're paying both those guys a ton of money and you're paying Jalen Suggs, who's defensively great, offensively useless, you're paying a lot of money to this team to get those mediocre results. And beginning of the year, I'd said, yeah, I'm going to bet on their desperation. And well, what happened? They sort of imploded. They showed in that, surprising stretch in the playoffs. Yeah, this is what this team could have been if they kind of all bought in and all did it, but they didn't. And it was a mess. Yeah. So now they're one step away from blowing it up. I mean,
yeah, they hired Sean Sweeney, who is the quote unquote the defensive coordinator, I guess, of the San Antonio Spurs. That makes me wonder, because of the way that they like to play Victor at the elbow in San Antonio. I wonder if they're going to do the same with Paulo, and they try to maybe do something where they cut Jonathan Isaac. He's only got an $8 million team option.
Well, that's all but sort of guaranteed. Like, you could see that coming a mile away.
Yeah, well, what I mean by that is you pay $8 million to him and he's gone, or you pay him the 14.5. So I would just do the cut. Also, Mo Wagner, he might be gone. I think Javon Carter he's an unrestricted free agent too. I think they'll pick him up. He actually played well when they got him, off the scrap heap. But what I'm saying is that they're going to have to get another big. They don't have a draft pick to do it, obviously, because they traded them all for Bane. So they're probably going to have to reach out in free agency to get another big.
They got Carter and Goga.
Carter's wonderful. I thought Carter, other than Paulo, I thought Carter was their most consistent.
So they don't need a big.
They
If
do
you got
because I think
Carter, Goga
I
as a
think the
backup, and you can move
design.
Paolo to center, you have enough size. They have too much size. They just need cohesion. And
Yeah,
then
but
you have to pay
they
Anthony
have
Black.
size. Here's the thing: they have size, but guys who are not good at stretching. Like the only one who can stretch, and they played him way too much, even though I think he's got a good future, is Tristan da Silva. So you got to find a way. I also really like Anthony Black. I think Black absolutely has a future, and
But there's
he's
no money for him.
well. That's what I'm saying. He's going to
This
be
is
on the
why we got to start
precipice of
moving
his rookie
pieces.
contract ending. Yes, so you got to negotiate that. And like you had just alluded to, they are already right now with their salary at this moment before making any moves. They are already $6 million past the first apron next year. So they're already in the tax. So you're pretty much in a position where you either have to dump people or you have to trade people.
Or you got
Um,
to dump, trade, or go all in. So I don't
I
know if
hate to
they're
say this because I think he's a valuable player still. I can see Carter getting traded. Like I can see Carter getting traded in exchange for someone else.
either way. They moves, I think, are going to have to come. You can't just say the coach was a problem. We need to run it back again. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, they can say that, and then comes a trade deadline, and they'll be like, "All right,
And
now
I
we
know
need to
they
try
have
to."
buyer's remorse on the Suggs contract, but you can't trade that contract. No one's going to take it. And I have no problem with Franz getting the big deal. I have absolutely no problem with Boncaro getting the big deal that he got. Like those guys deserve it. I just felt bad for Franz because he only played 34 games. He just got rocked by injuries, and he's a very good player. He averaged 20 points and 5 rebounds. I think he's terrific. But this year was just not in the cards for him. The playoff series against Detroit was just a microcosm of the whole season for them. You know, they look great sometimes and then they just fall apart. Like I've never seen a second half in a playoff game the way I saw like the Magic just absolutely fall apart in at home against the Pistons where they could have closed it out. Like I've never seen. I think they made 4 shots in the second half. I've never seen anything like that. It's just you could tell that mentally there was something wrong with that team. And you hope that with bringing in Sean Sweeney, a new coach, someone who might get along with Paulo, maybe they'll have less friction. All right, Adam, let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. A little bit of a wild ride on this one because Joel Embiid missed a good chunk of the season early on because they had him on sort of that like load management because of his injury history. He comes back for the middle of the Boston playoff series where they went down 3-1. Embiid played great. Maxey was awesome all year. They made a comeback against Boston to get to the second round, and then the Knicks just mercilessly swept them in the second round.
Well, because Philly wasn't that good in the end.
And
Okay,
Joel
so
Embiid was on tired legs.
they started off by getting, lucky in the NBA conspiracy ball by moving up to the number 3 pick.
Getting
However,
VJ Edgecombe was like a giant lifeline for them.
it was, and then however, the albatross that is Embiid's contract, and then the albatross that is Paul George's contract, which I think kind of did in Morey at the end of not, it was the okay.
Because the general manager Daryl Morey, he got let go. Yes.
It was we've kind of gone as far as we can with you. Perhaps we should go our separate ways. And yeah, when you're staring at Embiid and his $60-something million contract, it's hard to do anything if he's not going to be healthy. His contract
goes all the way until the end of 2029 when he'll be 35 years old, and it's $67 million as a player option, which he'll very probably opt into. And then and a player option for Paul George that ends in 28, that's $56 million. I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Aging like milk, and then you have ownership who was like, well, we're definitely not paying the tax. So you get rid of McCain, who then showed what he could do in Oklahoma City.
Played great for the Thunder. Yeah.
He flopped great for the Thunder, but
this is a hot take, but I think the writing was on the wall when they hired Bob Myers in upper management. When they hired Bob Myers, I think late last year, it was obvious, okay, they're getting a basketball head to run things, and whoever's the GM is in trouble, which was Morey. And I do think Embiid and George and the deals backfiring on them was a big reason why Morey got fired. But I think the part where he said we got good return value on Jared McCain in a press conference, and then McCain turns around and becomes like one of the Thunder's most important players.
Well, he showed what he
that
could
was a
do,
really
'cause you-
bad look.
You forgot he played 25 games, looked great, and then but he
Got
break
hurt.
his hand or something and was out for the rest of the year. And then, well, okay, so it was him or Quentin Grimes, and you chose Quentin Grimes over him. Yeah, I understand the argument of, well, yeah, we got Edgecombe, so we can't have all these people in the backcourt. Makes sense totally, but you showed you picked the wrong one, and then you have Embiid going, yeah, this was management who said this was a cost-cutting thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, harmony.
I liked McCain from the beginning when they traded him. I was very surprised. Grimes did play well for them. His 3-point shooting was off and on, but overall he was pretty good. Kelly Oubre Jr. had a great year. The only problem is that Oubre and Grimes are both unrestricted free, and so it's going to be hard to keep both of them. You're going to have to choose one of them. I think they're going to go with Oubre. That's just me, because I think they want the veteran leadership to go with Edgecombe.
Either way, they don't have much wiggle room. They need to figure stuff out, and it's, again, hard to do when you have a part-time player making double-time money.
They're already over the cap. They're already $15 over the next year's cap, so they don't have that much wiggle room. Maybe like $20 million before you get to the first apron. So they have to get creative. They might have to unload somebody. If they want to trade away George, they're going to have to give away picks to do so. I think one of them will be gone. I think one of them between Embiid and George will be gone. It will likely be Paul George. George had an embattled year. He averaged 17, 5, and 3. He was he's still very good defensively. He looked good against Boston. I'll give him credit there. But he also had a drug suspension that took him out for, I want to say, 20 games, 25 games in the regular season. So he didn't play a lot of games, but he still looks good. He's not worth the money that he's getting.
All it takes is just one team. You could say, yeah, we can move George, but you can totally see somebody crazy like Sacramento going, we'll give you Levine and Sabonis for him. And they'll be like, yes, no problem. It just takes, any contract is movable, as we've seen, with the exception of maybe Patrick Williams right now in Chicago. But the new brain trust in Philly has some things to do, because their backcourt is awesome. Their backcourt is
and we didn't talk much about Maxey, because to be honest, it's at a given now. Like, Maxey is one of probably the 5 best guards in the league. He's fantastic. 28 points a game. A demon. He very rarely gets hurt. He had his first injury ever this season, where he had a knee sprain. I think Nick Nurse's job is obviously safe, but I think him and Maxey have a good relationship. I think they just need to find a way to ramp down his minutes. And I think I know this sounds crazy because they had Grimes and they had Cameron Payne, but I think they need another guard. You know, they've been able to do well with guys like Dominic Barlow and Trenton Watford.
No, they don't need another guard because they got rid of McCain. They had a guard.
Yeah, but now you have to replace McCain, and you might have to replace George.
You need to replace Embiid and George, whose minutes they can't stay healthy. You need front court help, not back court.
I would go small.
Andre Drummond isn't gonna keep you you afloat.
I understand that, but I do think they're gonna re-sign Drummond. I think Drummond's happy there. I think they're gonna restructure a deal for Watford and Barlow where they're in the fold. Obviously, Kyle Lowry's retiring. He already announced it. Bona had some good moments, but we'll see how he looks next year. He's gonna come back. It's a team where their future core is really good between Maxey and Edgecombe, but they do have to make some big decisions involving the Embiid and George contracts and Oubre and Grimes' free agency. All right, Adam, the Houston Rockets. I really liked this team when they started. They seemed to have a really good thing going with offensive rebounding and playing big boy ball, because they had to lean on that with Fred VanVleet being out during training camp with the torn ACL. So they knew they were going to be down their starting point guard. They kind of went with that gimmicky offense with a lot of bigs. Durant played really well. And then there was just a lot. There was locker room friction. Alperen Şengün had some had some off and on times. Amen Thompson didn't really take to super well as as a point guard, which nobody, I think would have been unfair to expect him to be like this true point guard. But it was up. I think the point guard experiment for Houston and not being able to have a dependable one is really what failed them, and it got him knocked out in the first round by the Lakers.
Amen Thompson's lack of a super leap, which could have been
now. Let me be clear: really good player, Amen Thompson.
Oh, we know that, but we were anticipating sort of a superstar leap, and it's like, well, he never found his shot, so he might just be that guy.
He shot 20% from three. He just cannot.
He might just be that guy who will never find his shot.
He's a dunker extraordinaire. He's like one of these super athletes.
He's a skinny player. Aaron Gordon, like when he was in Orlando, just super athletic, but just wasn't able to shoot. And Aaron Gordon eventually developed the shot when he realized he can't keep doing that when he's 30. But Durant sort of had they went all in for him. You got your, I want to say heart and soul of your team, but you get your scorer in Green and then your defensive guy in Dillon Brooks. And
then Steven Adams, who is one of your best rebounders, he goes out in January or December with an injury, and he was done for the season. That was a big hit too. They got good play out of Tari Eason. He was on the precipice of like sixth man of the year a couple of times. I'm not sure where he's going to be. That one's a big question for him because he's one of those guys that is going to be in restricted free agency. So we'll see what happens there. They were a team that kind of was skirting with the tax apron. So they got a little bit of room to do what they need to do. Şengün, I think what it is just that Jabari Smith Jr. and Alperen Şengün, they showed a lot of promise offensively. I think Durant is just at a point where he just needs the defensive help, and Şengün and Smith and Reed Shepherd were just not able to provide it.
Also, the vibe, the Durant vibe sort of creeped into.
Well, that's just
Houston.
Durant in a nutshell. He does that everywhere he goes. He can be a malcontent very easily.
And he kind of was. And then it was, well, this wonky little style, 80s style of play worked for a while, but now is Udoka the problem of he can't get this team to over the edge. And that's what happens when you go all in on Durant thinking he's a missing piece. And then all of a sudden, yeah, he'll do what he does, but the team sort of crumbles around him because he's not really a part of the team. And
his playoff no-show, literally, because he now let's be fair, supposedly he banged knees in practice with somebody and he had a bone bruise. It's hard to come back from a fresh bone bruise on your knee during the playoffs. So I can understand why he wasn't 100%. He played a game, I believe, maybe two, and he just wasn't feeling it, and he shut it down. It did seem the timing was pretty bad of how he shut himself down. But maybe the story wasn't 100% true. Maybe that he did communicate with his teammates about what was going on with his injury and all that. And then all that stuff you heard from the beat reporters about how they hated each other and that they were sniping at each other in group chats
and the burner account.
Maybe it was a little overblown, but we'll see. VanVleet, obviously, we're hoping he'll be back from the knee injury and they'll be able to probably be at full strength. I think they're probably going to run it back. The one thing I'm scared of, and he's got another year before his rookie contract becomes negotiable, or his rookie extension becomes negotiable, is Reed Shepherd. Like, what are you getting out of this guy? Like, he's a good shooter, but defensively, he is so bad.
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, you have Tari Eason, who's a restricted free agent. Number two, you have to figure out Thompson's money now because he's going to get up.
Can I just tell you, I think he's getting the rookie back. He's going to get something.
I don't think he's going to get the
He's going to get something on the level of Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. That's just how I feel.
Holmgren got the max. I thought you said Suggs, which his contract will probably fall in line with that, which wasn't the max. And you got Şengün making, is it max money or close to max money? And you have Durant
rookie max, but he did.
Money.
It's rookie max, and he didn't make all NBA. He's a good player, though. I'll give Şengün credit. He's a good player.
You don't have money for Durant, Thompson, and Şengün, and Tari Eason.
And Smith.
and everybody, and yeah, Jabari Smith Jr. got paid too.
He got the money, yeah.
So there's not money for him. So you can try to run it back, but if things go south fast, I can see them needing to make a quick pivot out of
And
this.
that would be trading Durant because at his age you can only sign 2 years. So he had a 2-year $90 million tacked on, but he's got a player option for 2027. So the only drama would be wherever Durant would be traded to if things don't go that way. Is he going to be willing to opt into his deal, or is he going to opt out and just be like a hired gun wherever he goes? I'm
already
thinking
is a
way
hired
forward.
gun.
Yeah, but I'm thinking way forward. Like, say they just dump Durant or trade Durant because they have to get under the tax, that kind of thing. Şengün, I think he gets muddied a little bit too much about, like, he's not aggressive, and he does defensively. He's not very good. I think he's a really good player. I do think that he does take plays off, but I feel like he probably is their most important player. I really want to say Thompson's their most important player, but I think it's probably Şengün. All right, Adam. As the world turns with the Los Angeles Lakers, it seemed to me like when it started, all the drama involved LeBron James and how is he going to fit with Luka, and is this going to be his final year? Is he going to announce that he's going to retire? If you read the tea leaves, it looks like he's not retiring. He is going into free agency, unrestricted free agency. I want to say for the first time in his career, because he always had player options that he opted out of. This is the first time he's ever had a contract actually expire. But Luka Doncic was sort of the star of the show. He led the league in scoring. He got a calf strain late in the regular season. He wasn't able to play. But the Lakers were able to scrap together against an undermanned Rockets team. They were able to win their first round series, and then they got swept like in dominant fashion by the Oklahoma City Thunder. Do you think we're looking at the possibility that was LeBron James's last run with the Lakers?
We talk about the Lakers a lot, and everyone else talks about the Lakers a lot. So we can sum this up quite quickly. The Lakers need LeBron more than LeBron needs the Lakers for obviously merchandise and notoriety, and then the primetime everything. Yes, they need LeBron. They will pay him a lot of money. Does LeBron want to go ring chasing for $15 million in Golden State? That's
the big question, and he's been good. He's doing a good job, him and Rich Paul, of keeping their cards close to the vest. Nobody really knows yet
because they have no cards to play. There is no market for him. Nobody's going to pay.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. If he brings his value down and he announces to the GMs, hey, I'll play for $16 million on the MLE. Now it turns into a sweepstakes, but
it will. But he hasn't yet, and so that's why the Lakers need him. The Lakers aren't going to win the championship next year, not with that roster. Ayton was decent, but he's not a savior at the center. You had Luka, who, and as Luka does, gets hurt at the end, and every other piece is just sort of there. You have Austin Reeves, who will take all the LeBron money.
And I got to say, for Austin Reeves, he made a good decision not signing that extension that they tried to tack on last summer, because clearly he's going to make more now. He had a player option of $15 million, and he's going to opt out of it. He's probably going to get, I don't know what the max level is going into the new cap percentage, but if I had to guess, he'll probably get something in the neighborhood of like 4 for $200, something in there, like, or 5 for $200,
and
something
if
high.
They pay that, they have no money with that roster. So if LeBron, they bring back, so if they bring LeBron back for 35, let's say, okay, that 15 now goes to Reeves. There's your team. You're not winning a championship with that team. So if he's content just saying, look, I like being at home with my family, this is cool, but you're
you also have the free agency of Rui Hachimura and Luke Kennard. There's already been murmurs that they really want to bring back Kennard, because they liked how he fit with the roster that they had when they got him at the trade deadline. That tells me that Rui might be on the way out, and Rui
and
will
they're just
get
going to
high
get
demand.
they're going to get other pieces to plug and play. But like, we've seen, you get Marcus Smart. Yeah, he didn't move them at his age. He didn't move the needle, and
He's got a
everything
player
else.
option at $5 billion. He might just opt into it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's nothing for them, and then just keep him because he's decent.
Same with Ayton. I think Ayton might opt into his $8 million.
I don't know if some team won't pay him like 15.
We'll see. I'm sure his agent
Is he
going to
get 30? No, but
I
20
think
maybe.
that there's also, I know this is a very small problem for them, but if LeBron does negotiate a comeback in terms of like one more year and then I'll retire, you got to sign Bronny. And I don't think to be very honest, if LeBron's not there, Bronny's not there.
I mean, he's such low money. It doesn't.
$2 million.
Yeah, there's no point of letting him go because he knows since his father refused to send him to the G League.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the system. He knows how to fit in. So
And
why not keep a guy for $2 million?
To be fair, he did play in the playoffs. I think there were some moments actually where Bronny and LeBron were on the court together, which is nuts. But Jackson Hayes, unrestricted. They could probably sign him to lower money. I don't think he has the biggest demand. Maxi Kleber, see you later. I don't think they need to keep him. I think the biggest one will be if they lose Rui, who had a great shooting year. Like, who can you get to replace that if you get outpriced? But it also depends again on what LeBron is going to ask for and whether or not they're really in the market to keep LeBron in tow. They have a lot of room. They have a lot of room money wise. But like you said, when you sign Reeves, that takes up a lot. I love Reeves. I think he's an indispensable part of their team now. All right, Adam, the Minnesota Timberwolves, another successful season, another good run, another steady.
No success here.
What? This is a team that is constantly getting to the second round of the playoffs. The conference.
It's a
team
that's too expensive. It's a team that's no longer built for anything. And then you okay, we know we can't do Edwards and Towns. Let's try Edwards and Randall. Okay, well, now we know Randall has to go. And last year it was Walker or Reed. One of those two have to go. They're like, well, they should have kept Walker. Like, well, then you would have had to get rid of Naz Reid. If you didn't have Naz Reid.
Naz Reid. Here's the thing. That's a team that's built where you need everybody. You need everybody that's available to you. That's why when Dante DiVincenzo, it just sucked for him. He tore his Achilles. Ayo Dosunmu had to step up and play his ass off. TJ Shannon had to come out off the bench and really provide, because they do have depth, but they need somebody to play that role. And if they have an injury, they had to start kind of digging all the way to the bottom. Like they had to get play out of Mike Conley and Bones Highland and Jalen Clark, and that's not ideal. They even have like a poor man's French center to replace to fill in for Rudy Gobert and Joan Berenger. And I'm not saying he's going to be a bad center. It's just that it feels like they have like a really good starting five, and then they have sort of like a cloned version of them on the bench that is much worse.
They tried. They paid. They've been paying.
They paid all of them. McDaniels got his money. Nas got his money.
Mm-hmm. However, they failed because Rob Dillingham went.
Yep.
And there goes your 2031 first round pick, and Connolly got older, so he had to be replaced.
Kyle Anderson got picked up off the scrap heap, and he was okay, but I don't know if he's going to be back.
Bones, get DiVincenzo.
I think Bones will come back. I'll see. I don't know.
Well, Bones has played himself out of two previous places, so if he's there and they're happy with him, he doesn't have much.
The big question involves Dosunmu and if they have the room to keep him.
And then you have Edwards going, I need another playmaker next to me. I can't keep doing this, but the team isn't built for that. You had Connolly, not a shooter. You had Jaden Daniels, who is just a 3 and D guy. So that means you have to tinker with the roster, which means you have to jettison Randall in order to move things around.
Yeah, I think now might be just the perfect time to move Randall because he just started that new contract and he's got 2 more years, like at 33 million, a player option at 35, which he at his age, he would probably opt into. Randall's still a very good player. He still gets triple doubles every now and then. He was a nightmare against Denver in the first round, but he was overmatched against Wembanyama, and you could see it. McDaniels, I love the grit. I like how he's sort of a Swiss Army knife for Minnesota. The problem for Minnesota is that if McDaniels is your second best player, I don't know what your ceiling is. And then
That's the problem.
there's Rudy, and Rudy, it's kind of like how we always called him the stifle tower. It's almost like a tower, like a very old tower, and you're just waiting for it to crumble. And he hasn't yet.
Still.
That's what I'm trying to say. He hasn't yet. Where he's still at that point where he's shooting he's dunking everything. He gets 11 rebounds. He still gets his blocked shots, and he's offensively, he's not terrible, but
offensively he's not good, but you need to
but there is a desaturation point for Rudy in the NBA, and I don't know when it's going to happen. It hasn't happened.
It's coming
yet,
soon,
though.
But that's why you're too expensive to say this wasn't last year was a successful season. Okay, we're going to run it back. We're going to do it. We're paying to be in this tax. We're doing it. And then, our return was even a little less. Okay, we need to make changes fast because we're out of picks. We're out of trade capital. We can't keep running it back because we're not getting returns on it.
Yeah, and Edwards, I mean, just such a competitor. Hates to sit out due to injury, even though he didn't make the criteria this year. He actually had a couple of knee problems, so he did have to sit a few times. But he's super competitive. He averaged 29 points a game. His 3-point shooting was much better. His assist rate was down. You would hope that he'll become more of a facilitator, and he'll probably be asked to be more of a facilitator so that they can give more offensive responsibility. Guys like if they re-sign to Sumo, Shannon, maybe somebody else that they bring in a trade. But do you expect Edwards to still be sort of at that level where he's averaging 30 points a game, or do you think they'll try to make him more of a point guard?
Well, that's why the rumor of, they should just get Kyrie, who should be available, seems to work, as those two would work well together. But they need a different dynamic other than just having Anthony Edwards be that Luka Doncic only usage player, not highly usage. It was just everything has to go through him, and we can't do anything else.
Right, and that's the offense they run. And it works a lot. They've gone to the second round every year since 2024. So it works. It's just a matter of, is this where you top out at? You top out at playing against, a Thunder team and a Spurs team with Wembanyama, and you just can't get past them because they're just better than you. Chris Finch, I think he is a guy that is very fiery. I don't think his job is in trouble. I would be careful if they get in a slump to start the season, though, because I wonder if his defense first mentality and his tendency to argue a lot, I wonder if it's starting to wear down on the Minnesota team.
Well, you can't say the coach is the problem and the roster is good when we know we've just spent the last 5 minutes saying how the roster construction kind of isn't going to work.
Yeah, Tim Connolly got a lot of money to go there. So now he's going to have to show what he's worth. And, I don't think they do have a pick in the first round, but it's very late. It's a pick from Detroit. So
they have a pick, and that's all. They did manage to get one, and they, with, like you said, it was Jean Berenger. It's a development. If you get
Clark,
a body,
I like Clark. I do like Jalen Clark.
So you can hope you get somebody in. You can hope you find a cheap replacement, because they had to, got their bench of Minot and Garza last year, and minutes are minutes, and tax dollars are tax dollars, and we know they can't keep staying in this tax for too long. So
yeah, and there's not much more you can do in terms of minutes. I mean, all these guys, like even DiVincenzo, he averaged over 30 minutes a game. Like, what are you going to do? Give the starting five at least 34 minutes a game? You're going to run
Well,
them
he's going to
ragged.
be cut because he's not going to play next year. So, and I'm pretty sure there's no disabled player exemption for them due to them being over the tax lines.
Yeah, that's very true.
So you're just going to have to straight up cut him. So that's why their draft pick is very important for them. And yes, changes need to be made. They tried running it back. It didn't work. Okay, move on. Don't try running it back again.
I will give them credit, though. They maxed out what they had. I'll say that. All right, Adam, the Boston Celtics, a little bit of a roller coaster. They started with the pretty low expectations, thinking that they were probably going to, after doing a lot of cuts where they were trying to get below the second apron, when they anticipated not having Jason Tatum back, when he tore his Achilles late in the playoffs the year before. So they unloaded a lot of guys like Porzingis and people like that. They got off to a very good start. Joe Mazzulla wound up being the coach of the year. They overachieved. They were able to find a lot of offensive mojo. And then they were able to get Jason Tatum back before this, after the All-Star break. He looked good after about a month of seasoning. And then they kind of hit a wall in the playoffs where they went up 3-1. Tatum got hurt. Joel Embiid dominated their weak front court, and they lost in the first round in 7 games.
Okay, I will try to sum up Boston as quick as possible as Cy. Okay, number one, Brad Stevens should get the MVP award, getting him out of the tax, which was absolutely huge.
And still having a good team out of it. Yes.
Number two, as I didn't buy into the Tatum's return, they're the championship favorites hype that everyone else did. Because
I will say this, they had, and I don't know what this says about the Knicks, they had a better record than the Knicks at the end of the regular season. They were the 2 seed. Detroit had already gone to the 60 win level.
They overachieved, and New York sort of, they had a lull, as all teams do.
Mm-hmm.
But when the playoffs came, I had said all year, their problem is they have no size, and all they do is shoot threes, and that's not going to work. And what happened? All they did was shoot threes in the playoffs. Those threes didn't hit, and they were bounced immediately. Yeah. And Tatum got injured again for 3 of the last 4 seasons.
I don't even remember what injury it was. It was something, I think, was it a knee or was it
it was his knee again. It was like his knee's like, it's not, and that's good.
And that's one of those situations, and
coming back too early.
It's just today's, exactly. It's just today. And I know people they roll their eyes at injury. Oh my God, this guy always has it. It's just an overcompensate. It's just the problems of a modern athlete. You try to come back early, you overcompensate with another muscle, and it gets inflamed, and you don't want to risk further injury. The guy just came back from a torn Achilles, and he averaged 21 and 10. He had some games like at the end of the regular season where they were playing like tanking teams where Tatum looked fucking great. So
he looked great. However, the rest of the team had to shift their roles, which they had been used to playing together. Especially they played Brown. Well, but then the lack of size and the lack of a playbook. You can't just run around and then jack up a 3, which is all they did. And Brad Stevens in his postmortem was like, yeah, you can't do that. Yeah. And then that was always the issue of Mazzulla.
I think they felt pigeonholed because of the lack of personnel. And then once they had Tatum back, they're like, oh, we can do more. But we were already doing this thing that works, so we don't want to get away from it. Pritchard was good until he had to play against Tyrese Maxey. Breaking news: when you have to play Tyrese Maxey in a 7-game series, you're going to look bad. Derek White, maybe age is catching up to him a little bit. He's still a good defensive player, but I think his offense is disappearing.
No, he was good. The playoffs are the playoffs. The playoffs, they just fell apart. That was whatever. Jaylen Brown showed, that without Tatum,
had a great year. Might have been the best year he's ever had.
Yeah, without Tatum, of course he can do more, because when Tatum's there, he has to defer to him.
Yeah.
But the lack of having any size, and then you bring in Vucevic, who didn't work anything out.
Yeah, he had a wrist. I think he had a wrist injury. I think something had happened
immediately, and then just never came back. And he just it wasn't healthy in the end.
He's
And
an unrestricted free agent, so we'll see what happens. My guess is that he won't be back.
he could come back on MLE money. Like he's
That's
not
what I'm
at
saying.
his
I don't know
age.
what
He's
his I
not
don't know what
gonna.
his demand. This is the first time ever he's in the last like 10 years he's not a Bull. So it's like, okay, it's not just the Bulls negotiating for him. Like now, like people can actually look at his efficiency and his defensive plus minus. They can sit here and go, is this guy really worth like 15 or 20 million a year? I think the answer is no. So I think he's gonna wind up just biting the bullet and taking less somewhere else.
I will say this, and this is all I will say. Brad Stevens knows this roster has to be. They're not gonna. They're not gonna buy. They're not gonna go spend money this year because if all their assets will get unfreeze and they can do it. You take one more year off, you go spend next year. So I think that's gonna be the case. It's gonna be little moves. However, Brad Stevens has said, yeah, I know I need to do some things. Things need to be tinkered with. He has said the coach can't just be having the team jack up threes the whole time. Your hustle is awesome, but if on offense, if all you're going to do is just jack up threes, it's not going to work. So they know it's a problem. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think there is the possibility that they do decide to do a spending spree only because they escaped the tax last year. So when you get out of the tax and go back in and you have a gap year, you're not a repeat taxpayer. It really depends on if ownership wants to pay a big tax bill, if they feel good about whoever they're adding. Like say they get Giannis. Well, yeah, you have to think about it. That's just sort of a pipe dream. But I think that spending is possible, but they have so little wiggle room in terms of room under the apron that you just wonder if they're going to just try to develop guys like Baylor Shireman and Neemias Queta, Luka Garza, Jordan Walsh, guys who really provided before Tatum came back from injury. I just wonder if they're going to do something where they trade Derek White, because I would not trade Pritchard because he has such a low contract. All right, Adam, the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is a team that had high expectations. They got lowered a tad. Then they got raised again when they got James Harden. Then they got lowered a tad when they had to go 7 games twice the second round. And then they went back up when they got to the conference finals. And then they got swept. So it's like one of these things where the moment you think they're going to do something, they don't. They disappoint. And the moment you think they're going to disappoint, they do something.
I'm glad time has sort of elapsed because if this were taped right after their collapse, it would be a completely different reaction. But okay, first off, you can't end your disaster piece as they did with analytically we were the better team, and then Harden going, oh yeah, you can't have everyone going, yeah, we were the better team.
For those who don't know, Kenny Atkinson said in a press conference they were down 3-0, I believe. Well, we should be up 2-1 analytically. And it's like
yeah,
what
world are you yeah, that's the you are so far displaced from reality.
Yeah.
Oh, we should be able. Then that means your strategy is 10,000% wrong if you think, well, we should be winning. Like this is analytics. They all love it these days, but we can't say anything about Cleveland other than, as we said all year, they paid to be in this final.
They were the most expensive team in the league last year.
Exactly, which you can't do long.
Mm-hmm.
And then they realized, then they floundered. And
as of right now, at 222 million, they are already at the second tax apron in next season. So right now, you literally can't make moves unless Dan Gilbert really wants to pay more money for this roster.
And then they realized, okay, that their floundering wasn't working. Something was off. Okay, let's bring in Harden, which we
Harden Garland, it weirdly was like a straight swap. They had the exact same salary, so nothing changed. They didn't like get out of the apron, or they didn't like go further. They stayed exactly the same. He's got a player option at 42 million. I'm gonna be very honest. I think Harden's going to opt in unless
No,
there is an
no, no, no,
arrangement
no, no,
where
no.
he opts out and Cleveland signs him to some prearranged agreement.
He is going because he knows it too. Well,
He's not what he used to be, and he knows that,
he knows what he's not used to be. He knows his reputation. He
And we
also
didn't just
knows.
it wasn't just watching him get absolutely killed, like getting put in the car wash on screens by New York when they made that comeback game. It wasn't just that. You could even the game 7 that they won against Detroit at Detroit, which was impressive. I thought Jared Allen was awesome, who had a very efficient year when Harden got there. And I thought Mitchell was actually awesome in the game 7. Harden was god awful in that game 7. So you can see the wheels. I think Harden's just one of those guys that the deeper he goes, the less effective he is. It's just age.
Yeah, and he also knows I can't be on this salary and this team. So coming back to 270, 265.
Yeah, and then,
Yeah,
that I think that's reasonable for him. And Mobley, I've heard a lot of murmurs. Maybe they could trade Mobley. You could, but you better get something really good in return. And you can't
that's
trade
the thing.
Mobley and Allen. You can't trade them both.
No. And yeah, you're gonna get Mobley. That's why the Mobley for Giannis talk was coming. And
Mm-hmm.
also it was funny how Atkinson was like, well, I blame the NBA and the scheduling because we had to go to 2 7-game series. Well, how about this? How about just don't go 2 7-game
Don't go.
series?
The Raptors won. I mean, the Raptors fought hard, but they should have beaten them in less than 7 games. They
Yeah,
were better than them.
yeah, don't be like every excuse they use as opposed to, yeah, you know what? We got beat by a better team. No, we were the better team. We should be winning.
Detroit was a weird series when you look at it because the home team easily won the first 4, and then the road team easily won the last 3, which is very odd. I think it was just 2 teams that just hadn't been that far. Neither team could really get a grasp on the series, and I got to give credit to Mitchell. I have an embattled, like, I adore him as a regular season performer. I think as a playoff performer, he kind of stinks, but he's an excellent player. He's a guy who really knows how to carry them. I just wish he was a little more passive as a player when things get nitty gritty and he stops trying to like squeeze the orange too much.
Either way, the Cavaliers are too expensive to do stuff.
No,
I don't
they
know
have developed Jalen Tyson, which is good. Dennis Schroeder, who came in as a trade deadline move, he's played well. Sam Merrill has played well, and they got him on low money. So I think the biggest problems are the extension to Harden and Dean Wade. Like, can they bring back Dean Wade?
No, they got no money for kind of anybody. I mean, it just depends how much discount Harden takes. But I it's Cleveland at the point of they have to running it back. I don't know what it gains them because you can't say Atkinson was the problem. You can't say the team was the problem. Like they're just they're
regardless
too
of that stupid comment by his. Kenny Atkinson's a really good coach, and they have been better with him as the head coach versus JV Bickerstaff. Let's be real. The thing is, though, I also wonder if secretly Mitchell and Harden are kind of happy with the leisurely pace that they're at and the fact that Atkinson is just going to run with his guys, meaning Harden and Mitchell and Mobley and Allen. He's not going to take them out of games just because they're playing bad. He's not going to sub them. He's not going to threaten to take their minutes away. I wonder if they're just kind of happy with that. And if they don't win a championship, that's okay. I know that sounds stupid, but I just wonder if they just don't have that killer instinct. All right, Adam, the Detroit Pistons, a great regular season, wound up winning 60 games, and then a real adventure in the playoffs where they went down 3-1 to the Magic. They came back and won that by playing some rugged defense. Tobias Harris came alive. Kate Cunningham, I thought, was great. And Then they played Cleveland, where it was mixed results. They dominated in the games that they won. They looked absolutely terrible in the games that they lost. And at the end, they lost at home in Game 7.
Detroit is at the crossroads right now.
Mm-hmm.
You had obviously the main topic is Jalen Duren cost himself a max deal with his horrible.
Here's the funny thing. He made himself eligible for rookie supermax because he got all NBA. I think he made the
and
third
then he
team,
cost
but it doesn't mean you're going to get the supermax, the rookie supermax, which is I think 30% of the cap. You already gave rookie max to Cade Cunningham, and he's deservedly so. I don't remember where he was in the MVP voting. I would have to think he was third. He was either third or fourth, something like that. But he had a wonderful year. I think there is fair criticism that he doesn't shoot the ball well, talking about Cunningham. And that he turns the ball over a lot. But I do think him and Harris were able to find something in the playoffs. But during regular season, he was terrific. And they were missing Cunningham for a while with a lung injury, and Duren kind of carried him. But in the playoffs, he was just a no-show.
Yeah, and that's why it was just he cost himself max money through a poor performance. And okay, you can criticize Detroit all you want for taking the slow course and going, we're not going to overreact and then go all in and trade.
No, we're just going to plug in role players. Yeah.
We'll just, sort of do little things. But all right, Thompson, looking like he'll never be able to shoot.
No, but I love him. I think Amon's got a future
value.
Too, but Osar defensively is so good.
Yeah, but what's the value as just a defensively only player who can't shoot? Period.
Well, we're gonna find out because obviously that he is going to be rookie extension eligible. It will get signed quickly. I just don't know what number he's gonna get. Like, is he gonna get, 5 for 200, 5 for 180? I don't know. I can see a situation where he gets like 5 for 150, something like that. It's possible, but it depends on how much they value him. Karis LeVert looked okay, but he also had bad moments in the playoffs. Isaiah Stewart is I feel like he's indispensable. I know he's not a perfect player for them, but I feel like he's like a team leader. They keep him. Ronald Holland looked good. So he's developing slow. Dennis Jenkins, you got to get a deal wrapped up for him. He has a team option at $4 million. If I'm Detroit, I would actually decline it and then sign him more money.
He was a great find. Holland, I was going to say, not slowly developing. He's developing slowly as he's slowly getting it, and then they're integrating him more, and he's showing things.
Right. Paul Reed's good.
With that said, do they need to make a big splash to get a real number 2? Perhaps.
Yeah. It depends on how much they can ride down the demand in terms of salary on extensions for Duren and Thompson. Because remember, Duren is a restricted free agent this year. So whatever money you negotiate with Duren, that's what's on your cap. Yeah. And maybe Tobias Harris. Tobias is also unrestricted. That's another problem.
He is, and then, like we said, that might need an upgrade. And the benefit that they have is they're not like so cap thin yet. They have this choice to make, but that's why they're at the crossroads.
They're actually under the salary floor, if you could believe that.
Because once you sign Duren and then Thompson, there's your money. That's gone. Yeah. You have one piece, one chance to sort of get things going. And it'll be interesting to see which road they take.
Yeah. And they can keep Tobias. Maybe they'll see this victory in getting the extension on Thompson, keeping Duren, keeping Harris, and then, letting Werder walk, which is, I think, obvious. And also, I would pick up the team option at $16 million on Duncan Robinson. I think he's been really good for them. And maybe just get one more piece, maybe another shooter. I think secretly they always thought they were going to get back Malik Beasley last summer. And when the betting thing happened and it basically blackballed them, it kind of screwed them out of their plan. So I wonder if they're just going to get another shooter, because they do need another shooter. They're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the league.
Yeah, and that's why what is the value of Thompson if he can't shoot?
I mean, his two-way ability in terms of being able to get in the paint and also defend, just like his brother Amen. You know, I really like him. I think he led the league in steals. He either led the league in steals or he was right there with Kawhi Leonard. So I think he's definitely got a future. Duncan, I think he's starting to show more ability as a playmaker more than just as a shooter. So that's been good for them. I really love. I mean, who doesn't love Kate Cunningham? He averaged almost 10 assists a game. So he's really come along as a superstar. He kind of reminds me of Tyrese Maxey, where when I watch him, I'm just like, this is the guy. This is the guy you got to run everything through. Does he turn the ball over a lot? Yes, but you got to have the ball in his hands. All right, Adam, the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic with another unbelievable, outstanding year, MVP caliber year, had I think he had a 60-point triple-double on Christmas. And that was just one of them. He had a couple more like that. But this is a team where they loaded up. They traded Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson. They thought that was going to be a good plug and play. And they had good moments, and Jamal Murray was all NBA, but their defense was terrible. They had a really bad month of February, and they lost in 6 games to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round, a team that had a better defense than theirs.
This is the problem with trying to run it back year after year and then not having money to keep doing it, and then health slowly eroding away. And this is where we're at of this team.
Yeah. And they went with the veteran signings, and they went in my opinion, they went 1 for 2. Bruce Brown was not himself. He's a shell of himself. Tim Hardaway Jr., however, was a good contributor.
However, that's all they can do now is just make these little nickel and dime moves that we talk about how the windows close a lot faster, and I think Denver's has officially shut because you have no draft picks, you have no money.
They already have sticker shock from the Christian Braun extension that they had already agreed to because he looked terrible in the playoffs.
Well, he was also injured during the season, and then injuries took away this team. And then, well, that's what they did a couple of years ago. We have no money, so let's get all these late round first picks, and then hopefully a couple pay off. Now you have Peyton Watson. You got no money for him. You mentioned Cam Johnson, who was okay. Was he kind of a downgrade? Yeah, he didn't do really much, but there was not much for him to do as you're really sort of the 4th or 5th option in that starting lineup.
Yeah.
But you're at the point now of you can't keep this group together anymore. But if they can't keep back, if they can't, but that's what I was gonna say. If they can't keep the group together anymore, why did you tack on the extra years to Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon? Because you thought you could, but you can't keep running it back with the return being slightly less every time, because next year they're just going to get older and older and older.
And I honestly think, because I know he has a player option in 2027, meaning next summer, I don't see drama with Jokic because he would be completely insane to opt out and sign outside of the Nuggets elsewhere and take way less. He's going to get more years. He's going to get a supermax contract that's going to be in the $300 million range. And then if he has to get traded later, he'll get traded later.
Yeah, with him, more likely it's just be, I'm going to retire and just go back to my farm.
He's just a different mentality type of player. And I think defensively, he also had a knee injury. It was probably one of the worst injuries he's had as an NBA player, but also defensively, he was pretty bad. He averaged 28, 13 rebounds and 11 assists.
Statistically, he's still. And then the fact that people have to argue against these numbers, like, well, we can't give it to him because he technically should get it every year, and let's just give it to SGA.
I call that the Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal theory of well, if you were really fair, they would have just won MVP every time,
Yeah, and his supporting cast, Gordon and Murray, you gotta start moving things around. You can't.
Johnson didn't come alive for the Nuggets until the playoffs, to be honest with you. That's when he actually started playing well. Overall he was pretty mediocre as a Nugget.
So the question is, what can Denver possibly do as their options are
find a taker
limited
for Christian Braun? That's going to be the number one goal for the general manager. There were rumors David Adelman was going to get fired, but it didn't happen. He's going to stay. Also, condolences for him. His father, Rick, passed away, who was also a really good NBA coach. You got Jonas Valanciunas' team option that you can cut. I think they're in a really tough spot with Peyton Watson. I think they're going to wind up watching him walk. And the reason why is because the only other thing you could do with him as a restricted free agent is try to take part in a sign and trade to get talent in return. But because they're past the apron, they can't do a sign and trade.
And exactly, that's like I said, where we're at.
I think they're just going to watch him walk. I hate to say
you can't just watch all your pieces just sort of wither away, as that's what happened to Toronto. If you kept it, I think that Julian Strawther.
I think the Julian Strawther experiment has run its course. Maybe you pick up his $5 million team option. Maybe you don't, because that's how close they are to the apron.
Yeah, but you have to let him go, and it's just all veteran minimum players, and then the veteran players give you exactly what you expect. So it's kind of sad that they withered away as they did, but I think
they got a title out of it,
But they should have been built to repeat, and then it just didn't happen.
Their offense was unreal. They had the best offense in the league. It was
windows are small.
It's a really good team. Like when they have their starters and they have Jokic playing with Murray. The problem also too, and this is something that is just a problem with Jamal Murray. There are some moments in the playoffs where he looks unstoppable, and then he has some moments in the playoffs where he looks minuscule. And like it's almost like they're better off not playing him, because he's just I love Jamal Murray, but the thing is he does have his moments where you're just like, is this guy even trying? Like he's turned the ball over left and right. It seems like they're hunting him on defense. Christian Braun, I hope he has a bounce back year after the injuries. And Gordon had a lot of injuries too. So you wonder maybe if they're healthier, will they just play better if they just have everybody back? I don't think it's possible, because I don't think you can keep Watson when his asking price goes up.
All right. So for Andrew Reich, I'm Adam Murray. Have a good one.
Take care.